My mom replaced me with her stepdaughter, so I took my dad's side in the divorce and watched her lose everything. Now she's begging to reconcile. All right, Reddit. When this started, I was 16 and still believing that the woman who gave birth to me couldn't just swap me out like a broken phone. Grab some snacks, and let me tell you what happened. Name's Ethan, 19 male. And here's the thing about my childhood that makes this whole situation hit different. I wasn't just my mom's kid. I was her rescue project, her proof that she could do it all on her own. My dad, Vincent, was a long-haul trucker when I was young. Gone for weeks at a time, home for a few days to do laundry and restock the fridge, then back on the road chasing the next paycheck. Good guy, solid provider, but basically a ghost who paid the mortgage. My mom, Catherine, raised me almost single-handedly for the first 12 years of my life. She used to tell anyone who'd listen that we were a team, that I was her best friend, that she didn't need anyone else as long as she had her son. I believed every word of it. Why wouldn't I? She was there for every school play, even the terrible ones where I had 3 lines and forgot 2 of them. She was there for every scraped knee, every nightmare at 2 a.m., every awkward conversation about growing up. When other kids complained about their helicopter parents or their absent ones, I'd just shrug. My mom was different. My mom actually cared. We had this whole routine on Friday nights. Pizza from the same place we'd been ordering from since I was 6, some movie she'd let me pick, and ice cream afterward if I'd had a good week at school. It was our thing. For 12 years, that was our thing. The problem started when my dad finally got off the road. He'd saved enough to open a small auto repair shop in town, which meant he was actually home for the first time since I was in diapers. You'd think that would be a good thing. A family finally together, dinner at the table every night, all that Hallmark stuff. You'd be wrong. See, my mom had gotten used to running everything. The house, the finances, me, the schedule, the rules, the decisions, all of it flowed through her. And suddenly there was this other adult in the picture who had opinions about how things should work, who thought maybe I should have a later curfew, who suggested that maybe she was being a little controlling about my friend choices. They fought constantly, the cold, quiet kind where nobody talks at dinner, and every conversation has layers of meaning underneath it. I'd come downstairs, and they'd both go silent, fake smiles plastered on like I couldn't tell something was wrong. I started eating in my room a lot that year, easier than sitting between them while they took shots at each other, through comments about the salt being too far away. I was 15 when they finally called it quits, sat me down in the living room like they were about to tell me the dog died. My mom did most of the talking. She made it sound mutual, amicable, like they'd just grown apart and decided to be mature about it. My dad sat there in his work clothes, grease still under his fingernails, looking like he wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. "This has nothing to do with you," my mom said, reaching over to squeeze my hand. "We both love you so much. That's never gonna change." Funny how that turned out. The custody arrangement was supposed to be 50-50. I'd spend 1 week with my mom, 1 week with my dad. Standard stuff for kids of divorce. But my mom had a way of making everything revolve around her schedule. Doctor's appointments that conveniently fell on my dad's days. School events she forgot to tell him about until the last minute. Sudden emergencies that required me to come back early. Slowly but surely, I was spending more and more time at her place, and less at his. It was subtle. The kind of thing you don't notice until you look at a calendar and realize you've seen your dad 3 times in the past month. My dad's shop was struggling in those early years, so he was working 12-hour days, 6 days a week, just to keep the doors open. He didn't have the energy to fight her on every little scheduling conflict. He'd sigh, say, "Okay, Catherine," and get back to work. Then, about 8 months after the divorce, my mom started seeing someone new. His name was Darren, sales director at some pharmaceutical company, which meant nice car, expensive suits, and the kind of vocabulary where every sentence sounded like a pitch meeting. He drove a BMW that he washed every Sunday like it was a religious ritual. I met him exactly twice, before my mom announced they were moving in together. 2 dinners at restaurants I couldn't pronounce the names of, where he asked me surface-level questions about school and sports, and then talked to my mom about his portfolio the rest of the night. She didn't ask how I felt about him moving in. She told me it was happening and expected me to smile and play along. Then there was Darren's daughter. Her name was Ruby, 15 years old, same grade as me at a different school, and she split time between Darren's place and her mom's house in another state. Ruby's mom had gotten remarried to some guy with 3 kids of his own, and apparently Ruby didn't like sharing oxygen with them. So she convinced Darren to petition for primary custody, and since her mom was apparently relieved to have one less headache, nobody fought it. Within a month of the custody change, Ruby was unpacking boxes in what used to be our guest room. From day one, she acted like she owned the place. She took the guest room with the attached bathroom, even though my room had been next to the main hall bath my entire life. When I pointed out that I'd lived there for years and maybe had some claim to bathroom priority, she looked at me like I'd suggested she sleep in the garage. "It just makes more sense for me to have the one with the bathroom," she said, not even looking up from her phone. "Girls need more space. That's just how it is." My mom, standing right there, nodded. "She's got a point, sweetie. You can make it work." I could make it work. That became the refrain of my life for the next 2 years. Ruby reorganized the kitchen cabinets because she couldn't find anything the way we had it. She complained about the TV being too loud when I watched football, but blasted her music through the speaker at all hours. She took over the family room every afternoon for her study time, which mostly meant scrolling Instagram while books gathered dust around her. And my mom? She thought it was adorable. She'd laugh off Ruby's demands like they were charming quirks. She's been through a lot with her parents' divorce. She said, "We need to give her time to settle in." Apparently, I'd also been through a divorce, but my adjustment period ended the moment someone more interesting showed up. My buddy Mason noticed it before I fully admitted it to myself. He'd been my best friend since 3rd grade. He came over to hang out one Saturday and witnessed my mom cancel our plans to go to a movie because Ruby wanted to check out some new boutique at the mall. "Can't we just go to the movie after?" I'd asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. My mom barely looked at me. "We're going to be shopping for a while. Maybe next weekend." There was no next weekend. There never was. After she left, Mason just stared at me. "Dude, what the heck was that?" "What was what?" "That." He gestured at the door like my mom's ghost was still standing there. "She just bailed on you to go mall shopping with the new kid. That's messed up." I shrugged, but I felt it. The way you feel a bruise before it turns purple. "It's not a big deal. Ruby's still settling in. She's been here 4 months. How long does settling in take?" I didn't have an answer for that. The first real gut punch came around Christmas. I'd been saving up from my part-time job at a grocery store, bagging groceries and stocking shelves for minimum wage, trying to buy my mom something she'd actually appreciate. She'd been eyeing this cashmere scarf at the department store for weeks. I figured if I skipped lunches and picked up extra shifts, I could swing it. Christmas morning, she opened my gift first. Pulled out the scarf, smiled, said thank you, set it aside. Didn't try it on. Didn't hold it up to the light. Just set it aside like it was nothing special. Then, Ruby handed over her gift, a designer purse that Darren had obviously paid for. Probably cost more than I made in 2 months of bagging groceries. My mom lost her mind. Hugging Ruby, crying about how thoughtful it was, going on about how she'd wanted this exact bag for months, holding it up and examining it from every angle. She wore that purse every single day for the next month. The scarf stayed in her closet with the tag still on. The next week, my mom took Ruby to get her ears pierced at some fancy jewelry store downtown. Matching earrings for both of them. When I mentioned I'd been wanting a new pair of headphones for months, she said I should save up from my job. The earrings cost $300. I saw the receipt in the trash. My headphones would have been $40. Darren, for his part, wasn't a bad guy. He was just clueless. The kind of man who worked 60 hours a week and assumed everything at home was fine because nobody was actively bleeding. He'd pat me on the shoulder sometimes and ask how school was going, then zone out halfway through my answer to check his phone. Not malicious, just checked out, just not there when it mattered. Ruby was harder to read. She had this way of positioning herself that always made her look good and left me looking like the difficult one. If I complained about something she did, she'd get this confused, hurt expression and say she didn't realize it was a problem. If I asked for something my mom had already given her, she'd offer to share in this generous voice that made me feel petty for asking in the first place. One time, she ate the leftovers I'd been saving in the fridge. When I called her out, she apologized so sweetly in front of my mom that I ended up looking petty for even mentioning it. "Oh my gosh, I had no idea those were yours. I'm so sorry, I'll totally replace them." She never did. My mom told me to let it go. The thing that really opened my eyes was my junior year parent-teacher conference. My mom had promised to come. It was the first one since the divorce, where she'd be representing our household, and I actually had good stuff to show her. My grades were up, my teachers liked me. She didn't show. Ruby had a dance recital the same night, a showcase for some studio class she'd been taking for 3 months, and my mom decided that took priority. She didn't tell me she wasn't coming. I found out when I was standing in the school hallway waiting for her, and she texted that something came up. My dad ended up coming instead. Drove 40 minutes after a full day at the shop, told me he was proud of me on the drive home. My mom never even asked how it went. A few weeks later, I had a doctor's appointment for a sports physical. Routine stuff. My mom was supposed to take me since it was her week. The morning of, Ruby mentioned she needed to go to the DMV to get her learner's permit renewed. We can do the DMV after my appointment, I said. It's only a 30-minute thing. My mom frowned. But the DMV takes forever. If we go to your appointment first, we might not make it before they close. So we go to the DMV first and then my appointment. Your appointment's at 2. That doesn't give us enough time. I stared at her. So reschedule the DMV. Ruby's permit expires next week. She has to get this done. My mom was already grabbing her keys. Can you just ask your father to take you? I'm sure he can fit it in. I called my dad. He fit it in. Ruby, to her credit, didn't gloat about stuff like that. She didn't need to. She'd just give me this little look sometimes and wanted to make sure I knew it too. I really appreciate your mom, she said to me once, a few days after the DMV thing. We were both in the kitchen. She's been so welcoming. It must be nice having a mom who actually cares. She said it like she was praising my mom's generosity, but the message was obvious. I didn't respond. Just took my soda and went to my room. Junior year was when the favoritism stopped being something I could pretend wasn't happening. It became just how things worked in that house. My mom and Darren got married in April. I was there, standing in a rented suit that didn't fit right, watching my mom promise to love and cherish a man she'd known for barely 14 months. Ruby was the maid of honor, gave this whole speech about how grateful she was to have a real mother who understood her. My mom cried. Everyone applauded. I wasn't even asked to give a toast. After the wedding, the difference in how we were treated became impossible to ignore. Ruby wanted to redecorate her room. My mom hired an interior designer, let her pick custom furniture, repainted the walls 3 different times until Ruby was satisfied. I asked for a new desk chair because mine had a broken wheel and the cushion was basically flat. We'll see what's in the budget, my mom said. I fixed the wheel myself with duct tape. Ruby needed a car for her 16th birthday. Darren bought her a white SUV. She didn't even have her license yet, just her permit, but she wanted to practice in something safe. Meanwhile, I'd been driving the same beat-up Honda Civic my dad gave me when I turned 16. Manual transmission, no air conditioning, paint peeling off the hood. When the transmission started slipping, I asked if maybe the family could help with repairs. You should talk to your father about that, my mom said. That's his car. Right. His car. Not a family problem when it was about me. Ruby got a new laptop for school because hers was running slow. It was 8 months old. My laptop was 4 years old and took 10 minutes to boot up. When I asked about getting mine replaced, my mom said I should be grateful for what I had. A week later, Ruby's old laptop ended up in the donation pile. Nobody offered it to me. Mason was the one who kept me sane during this period. Every time something happened, I'd text him, and he'd respond with increasingly creative suggestions for revenge that we both knew I'd never actually do. Ruby got the big room. Hide fish in her air vents. She'll never find it, but she'll smell it forever. My mom forgot my birthday dinner? We should toilet paper her SUV. Symbolism, man. He was joking, mostly. But underneath the jokes, he saw what was happening. He'd been through his own family drama when his parents split, so he got it. His dad had basically checked out too, just in a different way. At least yours is obvious, he said once. Mine just pretends everything's fine while doing nothing. Yours is actively picking someone else. Both stink, but at least you know where you stand. The other person who became important during this time was my dad's girlfriend, Naomi. She'd started coming around about a year after the divorce, a trauma nurse who worked at County General across town. She and my dad had been together almost 2 years by the time things got really bad with my mom, and she treated me like an actual human being, which was more than I could say for anyone at my mom's house. Naomi was the one who suggested I start documenting things, just keeping track of incidents so I could see the pattern clearly. So I started keeping notes on my phone. Dates, incidents, exact quotes when I could remember them. It felt paranoid and petty at first, but after a few months of scrolling through that list, I realized Naomi was right. This wasn't me being sensitive. This wasn't jealousy. I was being pushed out on purpose. My mom had a new daughter now, a shinier, more grateful model, and I was being phased out. Things at home got unbearable. I started finding excuses to be anywhere else. Extra shifts at work, study sessions at the library that lasted until closing, more time at my dad's place, even on weeks I was supposed to be at my mom's. She barely noticed. When she did, she'd make some comment about me being difficult or antisocial or going through a phase. Never once did she ask why I didn't want to be there. Ruby, meanwhile, was thriving off the chaos. Every inch of space I gave up, she filled. More time with my mom, More inside jokes, more photos on social media where I was conveniently cropped out or not invited in the first place. She'd screenshot them sometimes and send them to me directly. A picture of her and my mom getting manicures together. Caption, Mother-Daughter Day, so blessed. My mom had never called it that when it was just us. Never once in 16 years. I showed Mason one of those screenshots, and he just shook his head slow. She's playing a whole different game than you, dude. And she's winning. He wasn't wrong. But I was still stuck living with her. The breaking happened on a Saturday night in May. My mom and Darren were hosting a dinner party for some of his work colleagues. Important people, apparently. The kind of dinner where you're expected to dress up, smile pretty, and pretend to be the perfect blended family for 3 hours. I didn't want to be there. I'd already made plans with Mason to go to a movie, but my mom insisted I show up for at least the first hour. Make a good impression. Fine. Whatever. I put on a button-down and went downstairs to play my part. The dinner was exactly as boring as I expected. 8 adults talking about quarterly projections, market shares, and somebody's vacation house in the Hamptons, while I pushed chicken around my plate. Ruby was sitting across from me in a designer dress. Naturally, she was the star of the show. Laughing at every joke, asking questions about healthcare trends, playing the role of Darren's perfect daughter. About an hour in, I excused myself to use the bathroom. On my way back through the hallway, I passed the spot where my mom kept her memory wall. You know the type. Framed photos, awards, little mementos from important moments. That wall had been there my whole life. My first birthday, my Little League team, my 8th grade graduation. Except something was different. My junior year school photo was gone. The one that had been hanging in the center of the wall for 6 months. In its place was a new picture. My mom and Ruby at some spa day. Both in white robes, glasses raised, smiling. I stood there staring at it. That's when Ruby appeared behind me. She didn't say anything at first, just stood there with a glass of sparkling water, watching me look at the wall, waiting. When did this happen? I asked without turning around. Oh, the photo? Her voice was light, almost bored. Like a few days ago. Your mom wanted to switch things up? The old one was kind of, I don't know, outdated? I turned to face her. She took down my school photo. It wasn't a great shot anyway. She shrugged one shoulder. The lighting was weird. This one looks better up there, don't you think? Shows off the wall more. Shows off our bond, I said flatly. You've been here over a year. Quality over quantity. A small smile. Some people just click faster than others. That's nobody's fault. Right. Look, I'm just saying. She wanted someone who appreciated her, who actually wanted to hang out with her instead of hiding in their room all the time. She took a sip of her water. Can you really blame her for liking that? I stared at her. The worst part was how calm she was. You planned this, I said. All of it. From the start. I didn't plan anything. I just paid attention. Another shrug. Your mom was lonely. She wanted a real daughter. You were being useless, so... She gestured at the wall. I guess she replaced you with me. Then she chuckled. That's when I reached past her and pulled the spa photo off the wall. Her eyes widened. She stepped back, and I let the frame drop to the hardwood. Glass cracked and scattered across the floor. The noise brought everyone running within seconds. My mom first, then Darren, then half the dinner guests crowding the hallway behind them. What happened? My mom's voice was sharp, already blaming me before she knew anything. Ruby's whole demeanor shifted instantly. Voice small, eyes going wet. I don't know. I was just walking by and he grabbed the picture and threw it down. I think he was trying to scare me. I dropped it, I said. I didn't throw anything at anyone. She was standing 3 feet away. But my mom wasn't listening. She was already at Ruby's side, arm around her shoulders, shooting me a look that could freeze water. How dare you ruin this night, she said quietly. How dare you scare your sister like that, after everything we've done to make her feel at home. And she's not my sister. And look at what was on that wall. You took down my picture and put up one of you two. My mom's expression didn't change. We'll talk about your behavior later. Go to your room. Now. I looked at Darren. He stood there with his hand on Ruby's back, looking uncomfortable but saying nothing. The dinner guests were whispering. I felt something inside me snapped. Months of piled up rage after watching her treat me like I don't exist anymore. You don't even care, I said. You don't even see it. Room. Now. I went. But not to my room. I went upstairs, packed everything I could fit into 2 duffel bags, climbed out my window onto the garage roof, dropped down to the lawn, and walked 3 miles to my dad's apartment in the dark. I was done. I showed up at my dad's place around midnight, sweating through my button-down, duffel bags cutting into my shoulders. He opened the door in sweatpants and an old concert t-shirt, took one look at my face, and stepped aside without asking questions. That's the kind of man he was. Just a couch to crash on and a promise that we'd figure it out in the morning. Naomi made breakfast the next day. Eggs and toast and coffee. She sat across from me while I told them everything. The favoritism, the screenshots, the wall, the fight, all of it. From the beginning. Every detail I could remember. My dad listened without interrupting, his jaw getting tighter with every incident. When I finished, he set down his cup and said 3 words. You're staying here. No suggesting I try to work it out. No both sides nonsense. Just immediate, unconditional support. My mom, predictably, lost her mind. She called my dad's phone 6 times that first day. When he didn't answer, she called mine. Left voicemails ranging from concerned, I just want to know you're okay, to furious, you can't just run away every time things get hard, to threatening, if you're not home by the end of the week, there's going to be serious consequences. Darren tried once too, an awkward voicemail about how families work through stuff together, and how running away isn't the answer. I almost felt bad for him. He genuinely didn't seem to understand what had been happening. Then I remembered how many times he'd watched my mom sideline me and said nothing, and the sympathy went away. I didn't respond to any of them. Neither did my dad. What he did do was call Howard, a lawyer he'd known since high school. He was a family law guy, handled divorces and custody disputes, and he owed my dad a favor from years back when my dad fixed his transmission for free. Here's where things started turning. My mom had gotten comfortable being in control. She'd spent over a year manipulating custody schedules, keeping my dad out of the loop on school events and doctor's appointments, slowly reducing his presence in my life to a couple weekends a month. She'd gotten sloppy because she'd never faced any pushback. Howard started digging into everything. The child support payments my dad had been making versus what was actually being spent on me. The custody agreement violations. The pattern of favoritism that I'd been tracking for months. Turns out, those notes I'd been keeping became crucial. Every incident, every date, every quote. Howard used it to build a picture of ongoing emotional neglect. My mom couldn't claim I was exaggerating when I had receipts going back over a year. He also found out my mom had been claiming me as a dependent on her taxes, even though my dad was paying most of my actual expenses. That alone was enough to make the judge pay attention. The custody modification filing went out 2 weeks later. Mason was my anchor during all of this. He'd come over to my dad's place after school. We'd play video games or just sit around talking trash, and for a few hours I could pretend my life wasn't on fire. Your mom's always been kind of intense, he said one afternoon while we were grinding through some online shooter. Remember when she called the school because they gave you a B+ instead of an A-? Who does that? She said it was about standards. It was about control, man. Same deal now, different package. She can't control you anymore, so she's losing it. He wasn't wrong. He usually wasn't, even when I didn't want to hear it. Naomi became something like a second mom during those months. She made sure I ate real food instead of just ramen. She asked about my day without making it feel like an interrogation. She gave me space when I needed it, and company when I didn't. She also had a dark sense of humor that matched the situation perfectly. Your mother sounds exhausting, she said once, while we were watching some cooking show. Some people just need everyone around them to play a part in their little story. And when you stop reading from the script, they have no idea what to do with you. The custody hearing was scheduled for June. In the meantime, I was officially living with my dad, finishing out junior year from his address. My grades stabilized. I picked up more hours at the grocery store. Life started feeling normal for the first time in years. My mom tried different tactics during the waiting period. First, the guilt trips. Messages about how much she missed me, how the house felt empty, how I was breaking her heart by staying away. When I didn't respond, she switched to anger, accusations of abandonment, of being selfish, of letting my father turn me against her. When that didn't work, she tried bribery, offered to buy me a new car if I came home, offered to redecorate my room however I wanted. I didn't respond to any of it. Howard had advised me to keep all communication through legal channels. And honestly, I had nothing to say to her anyway. Ruby, meanwhile, was living her best life back at the house. She'd apparently told everyone at her school that I'd been removed from the home because I was violent and unstable. The story spread. Some people believed it. Most knew me well enough to be skeptical. I didn't bother defending myself. The custody hearing was in June, right at the start of summer. I would live with my dad full-time. My mom got optional visitation rights at the minor's discretion. Translation: I could see her if I wanted to, but I didn't have to. I didn't want to. My mom came out of that hearing looking like she'd been hit by a truck. She'd expected to win. She always expected to win. But Howard had laid everything out piece by piece, and the judge wasn't impressed with her excuses. The favoritism, the financial disparities, the pattern of broken promises, all documented, all verified, all impossible to explain away. She tried to corner me outside the courthouse afterward, started walking toward me. My dad stepped between us. Didn't say anything aggressive, just put himself in the way and said, "Not today, Catherine. Not anymore." She stopped, looked at me over his shoulder, and for just a second I saw something in her eyes that might have been regret. I walked away without looking back. That should have been the end of it, but life has a way of piling on when you least expect it. See, Darren had been watching this whole custody disaster unfold, and it made him start asking questions. Questions about why his wife seemed more focused on her stepdaughter than her own biological son. Questions about why I'd left so suddenly and dramatically. Questions that led him to examine the household finances more carefully than he ever had before. Darren was a numbers guy. Once he started digging, he found everything. My mom had been skimming from their joint accounts for over a year. Not massive amounts, but consistent. A few hundred here, 1,000 there, all flowing into a personal account she'd never disclosed. Money that was supposed to be going toward household expenses that ended up funding shopping trips and spa days and who knows what else. The hidden account had over $12,000 in it. Since they moved in together, she'd been siphoning off cash. Darren showed her the bank statements, dated and highlighted, and asked her to explain. She couldn't. The confrontation happened about 6 weeks after the custody hearing. I wasn't there, obviously, but the fallout hit the gossip network fast. Mason's older sister worked at a salon in town, and within 48 hours, she had the whole story from a client who lived 2 doors down from my mom. Darren packed a bag, called my mom a liar and a fraud, walked out of the house they'd shared for less than 3 years, filed for divorce the following Monday. Apparently, the final straw was when he confronted her about the hidden account, and she tried to gaslight him about it. Told him he was confused, that the money was for emergencies, that he was being paranoid. But Darren had spreadsheets and bank records, and he wasn't a teenager who still wanted to believe his mother was a good person. When she realized she couldn't lie her way out of it, she switched to crying and apologizing, but by then it was too late. Darren had already called his lawyer. The house was in his name. The cars were leased through his company. Without his income propping up the lifestyle, my mom couldn't afford to maintain any of it. The SUV got repossessed. The house went on the market. She had to move into a cramped apartment across town, the same neighborhood she used to make snide comments about whenever we drove through. Funny how life works. Ruby went back to her biological mom's place. Her mom wasn't thrilled to have her back, especially since Ruby's attitude hadn't improved any. Last update I got through the grapevine, she was working some minimum wage gig, posting vague motivational quotes on social media about toxic family members and knowing your worth. Mason sent me the real estate listing when my mom's house went up for sale. 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, motivated seller. He attached a GIF of Michael Jackson eating popcorn. Couldn't have happened to a nicer person, he texted. I'd be lying if I said there wasn't some satisfaction in watching the whole thing fall apart. She'd made me feel invisible, worthless, replaceable. Now she was the one being replaced, by the consequences of her own choices. My dad's shop had finally turned a corner financially, so things at his place were stable and getting better. I finished high school with grades good enough for state college, worked all summer saving money. Naomi helped me figure out a budget, taught me how to cook things, and generally made sure I was ready to live on my own without immediately falling apart. I didn't hear from my mom at all during this period. I assumed she was too busy dealing with her own disaster to worry about the son she'd thrown away. That assumption lasted until about 3 months into my freshman year of college. I was in my dorm room studying for a midterm when my phone buzzed with an unknown number. Normally, I'd let it go to voicemail, but something made me pick up. Hello? Silence on the other end, just breathing. Then a voice I hadn't heard in almost 18 months. Ethan, it's your mother. I didn't respond, just sat there with the phone against my ear, waiting. I know you probably don't want to talk to me. Her voice sounded smaller, like she'd been crying recently or was about to start. But I needed to hear your voice. I needed to tell you how sorry I am for everything. Still nothing from me. Things have been hard. Darren's gone. Ruby went back to her mother's. I lost the house. I lost the car. I lost everything, Ethan. I'm working 2 jobs now just to pay rent on this tiny apartment, and I'm alone. Totally alone. Her voice cracked on that last word. Part of me, the part that still remembered Friday night pizza and ice cream and the woman who used to be my whole world, wanted to feel something. Sympathy, maybe. or at least pity. But that part was buried under years of being made to feel like I didn't matter. I made mistakes, she continued when I didn't jump in to reassure her. I see that now. I got so caught up in building this new family, in making Darren and Ruby happy, that I forgot about the family I already had. I forgot about you. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. She paused, waiting for me to tell her it was okay, that I forgave her. The old me might have. I was hoping maybe we could meet up somewhere, get coffee, talk. I just want to see you, Ethan. I just want a chance to fix things between us. I let the silence stretch for a few more seconds. Then I finally spoke. You know what I remember most about growing up? I remember you telling me we were a team, that you didn't need anyone else as long as you had me. I believed it so completely that when things started changing, when you started picking her over me, I thought I was the problem. I thought there was something wrong with me that made you stop caring. Ethan, I never stopped. Let me finish. My voice was calm. I'd imagined this conversation 100 times without ever expecting to actually have it. You didn't stop caring because of anything I did. You stopped caring because someone newer and shinier came along. Someone who made you feel like you were building something better, something more impressive than what you already had. And the second that happened, I became disposable, just a leftover from a life you were done with. I could hear her crying now. So no, I continued. I'm not going to meet you for coffee. I'm not going to give you the chance to explain or apologize or make yourself feel better about what happened. You made your choices, Mom. Now I'm making mine. Please. Her voice was barely a whisper. You're my son. You're all I have left. Funny. I let that word hang in the air. That's exactly how I felt when I was living in your house, watching you swap me out like I was broken goods. I guess now you know what that feels like. I can change. I can do better. Goodbye, Mom. I hung up before she could respond, blocked the number, put my phone face down on the desk, and went back to studying for my midterm. Here's the thing. If it helps anyone going through something similar, it's not your fault. Whatever you did or didn't do, however you tried to fix it, their failure as a parent isn't about you. It's about them. You can't make someone love you the way they should. You can only control how you respond when they don't. I chose to walk away. I chose to build a life with people who actually showed up. And honestly, life is pretty good now. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel and help us bring you more and better stories. Thanks.